Okay, so today we're going to start off with a carrot and ginger soup. So I'm going to start off by turning our pot onto the heat. Start off on a high heat just to get it warm. We'll pop in about half a tablespoon of rice bran oil, about the same of sesame oil. And here in the mortar pesto I've got about 3/4 of a teaspoon of coriander seeds. Just going to roughly grind them a bit. They don't have to be powdered at all, just so they're broken up, so they will break down in the soup a bit easier and release their flavours. Also, I've got 1.5 teaspoons of cumin seeds. I'll just pop those into the pot. Along with a little pinch of asphodel. And just while those are starting to heat, you can chop. I've just got a small amount of celery, about half a stick here in total. Chop that up. And the carrots I'm going to grate. When you grate carrots, it just helps them to break down faster for cooking. Also, they tend to release their flavours a lot easier. A little bit at the end is okay. So the seeds, you want to hear the seeds start to sizzle and just start to crack. Just be careful not to let them burn, otherwise they'll start to go bitter. Should just get a nice sort of aromatic flavour coming out of there. So we'll pop in the celery, first part of carrot, now we can turn the heat down, medium to low heat. Just let those start to saute down. In the meantime, we'll just grate the rest of our carrot over here. This is a really simple soup to make. One of the most important things I always tell people about cooking, the most important ingredient you can put into your food when you're making it is sort of to put the right energy in while you're cooking. Be making things with a feeling of love and appreciation. It's funny when you eat out at restaurants. I spent a lot of time working in restaurants when I was younger, and although the food may look and somewhat taste good, often the energies in professional kitchens are not of the best nature. A lot of crazy chefs are out there. There's often a lot of yelling and screaming going on in kitchens, and all that sort of energy goes into your food. So when you are cooking, always just try to have a grateful attitude and be making food when you enjoy it and when you're in a good mood. And it actually does make a really big difference, and people notice it in the food even though they may not notice what they're noticing. So the juice starts to release from the carrots when you're sautéing them down, then they start to sweat down. So you don't want to add any colour to them, but you're just gently sweating them down like a light sauté. It's extremely difficult if you are eating out regularly to find food that is made in a place where the energy is conducive to having nice food. And also nutrition wise, often restaurants, everything's based around how the food looks and how the food tastes, with little or no thought on what the actual nutrition value is of the food, or trying to maintain the nutritional value of the food. Most food you'll find has been pre-cooked or pre-prepared of some degree. Whenever food's been cooked and then reheated again, you're looking at food that basically has very little or no nutritional value. Which is why it's important that you learn to cook your own food as much as you can. Pop the last part of our carrot in. That's coming along nicely there. So we'll just give that about another minute and then we'll pop the water in. So into here we're going to put about 4 cups of water to start. I'll also turn the heat back on to high just to bring the soup to the boil first off. Now into here I'm going to add 1 kumara or sweet potato. I've got the golden type, you can use the purple if you like. You can also use extra carrot, but I find the kumara sweet potato just gives it a slightly more velvety texture. Rather just carrot on its own, it can be a little coarse and it's hard to get that really smooth finish. And goes the kumara. Give that a little bit of a stir. A little cracked pepper. Touch of sea salt. We'll just let this one come to the boil. Once it's come to the boil, we'll turn it down to simmer for around 15 to 20 minutes. This soup is quite fast to make. Just basically until the sweet potato is starting to break down. We'll add the ginger towards the end just so the flavour is still fresh within it. In the meantime, we'll juice our oranges. Oranges are just starting to come into season here. These are some from the local market I picked up this morning. It's amazing how much juice is in them. They're quite small oranges, but they're filled with juice. Fantastic. The orange juice we want to add at the very end whenever you're using citrus. Always add it right at the end after it's removed from the heat. If you boil the citrus, you're going to lose a lot of the vitamin C and also the flavour. While that's coming up to the boil, I'll pop the 2 tomatoes in, just remove the core. Pop those in there. We'll get our ginger ready. I'm just going to break a piece off. Always just check that there's nothing nasty on the skin. Otherwise, it's generally fine just to grate it with the skin on. The skin is completely fine to use, especially if you're using organic ginger. We've got about a tablespoon and a half of ginger here. Meanwhile, sounds like our soup is just coming up to the boil. We'll just turn that down now. Medium-high heat, so it's just ticking over nicely. Never want to be boiling things rapidly. When things are boiling rapidly, it tends to lose colour and kills nutrients faster. Always things ticking over at a nice, gentle rate. Whenever you are making soups or boiling anything for that matter, particularly more if there's any grains in there or lentils, chickpeas, things like that, you'll always see a little bit of froth come to the surface. And it's a really nice idea to remove that. You can just use a ladle, just by placing the ladle on the top surface, rolling around gently from the middle, rolling it out, and the froth will make its way to the edge of the pot, and then you just gently scoop it up with the edge of the ladle. So that froth is basically any impurities in the food just coming out. It's always a good idea to remove that. You'll notice if you're cooking something like chickpeas particularly, you'll see a lot of that froth come up. But even vegetables, they have a little bit of it. And just by removing it, it helps to keep the cleanness and the taste, and also the colour if you're doing something that's clear. So we're also going to prepare a garnish for this soup. It's quite simple to do, but it looks really nice. So I've got 2 capsicums here. You can use any colour that you have. I'm just going to use a little bit of red and a little bit of green. Just slice as much of a straight edge off as you can. What we need to do here is make it as thin as possible. So we're going to slice as much of the fleshy part out as we can, leaving just a little layer close to the skin. It might take a couple of times to do, so you get one layer there, and try to take it one more. This obviously is the sort of thing you'd probably only want to do if you've got some guests coming around that you're trying to make something nice for. You just need to be careful with the fingers here and make sure that you're using a sharp knife, otherwise it'll be quite difficult. So ideally you want to get it down so the piece you've got left is around 2 millimeters thick. 1 to 2 if you can. So these pieces here are still excellent. In fact, all the good part of it is there. So I'm just going to roughly chop those up, throw them into our soup. Now, these pieces we have left, we want to chop them as finely as we can. So this is called julienne in the cooking world. You just make sure that you have the fingers curled under and you're just running the back of the knife against the knuckle of the middle finger. And that way it just guides you as you go, and you don't have any chance you can cut the finger as long as you keep them curled under. We've just got nice thin strips here. Now these strips we're just going to pop into a bowl, place a little water in with them and a little ice if you've got the ice. If you don't have the ice, don't worry, just stick the bowl in the fridge. So only so they're just gently covered. A few pieces of ice on top, into the fridge, and the ice and the cool water will actually make those thin pieces curl up, and it gives quite a nice sort of effect with the presentation. If they're not cut thin enough, then it'll be difficult for them to curl up, but sometimes it takes around half an hour before it's coming properly, so we'll check back on that one. Meanwhile, our soup is almost there. Looks like we're going to need to add about another cup of water in. I'll take hot water from the kettle so as it's not going to stop the cooking process. We'll get our coriander ready. Coriander is one of my favourite herbs. And today there's beautiful fresh coriander at the market. So coriander is excellent. It gives such a nice, fresh, vibrant flavour to your food. It's one of those things you either love or hate. I was deprived of it growing up as a kid because all my family hate it, but I make up for it now. So we're going to roughly chop this. The roots have already been removed from this one, so chop the leaves and the stalk. Beautiful aroma coming out straight away as soon as you chop it. It looks like our soup is good to go. So let's turn that right down on a very low heat. Good. So just while we're pureeing that, I've turned the heat off there now. We'll pop the ginger in. Our orange juice. Just watching those seeds go in there. Coriander in. And we should be good to go. So we've got a nice consistency there. If you like it thinner, you can add more of the orange juice or a little water. Let's taste that, make sure it's all good. Delicious. You can really taste that fresh ginger right at the end. The orange juice comes through and then the coriander just adds that nice freshness at the end. Let's pop that carefully into our bowl now. Coriander gives that nice green speckled colour through it. You still have that nice beautiful orange colour of the carrots with the orange juice. Capsicum on top. And since we have this nice fresh coriander here, a couple of pieces there also. So we have our carrot and ginger soup with fresh orange juice, fresh coriander, lovely, beautiful, vibrant flavours and colours. I hope you'll enjoy that one.